Good afternoon. Welcome to the July 29th, 2014 meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority. May we have the roll call, please?
Authority members: Devine.
Here.
Friedman.
Here.
Incy.
Here.
Parazian.
Here.
Sinanian.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Chair Najarian.
Here. May we have your report?
The agenda for the July 29, 2014 regular meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority was posted on Thursday, July 24, 2014 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. May we have the next item?
Next item at 4A is minutes.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, and if there are no corrections or objections to the minutes, they will be approved unanimously as submitted. Next item, please.
Next item is oral communication. Discussion is limited to items not part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Members of the Housing Authority may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The matter may be referred to staff through the Executive Director for an investigation and report.
Okay, I have 3 cards today. First speaker is MZ VZ.
Thank you, R. Well, Authority, nice to be exposed to you. Hi, sir. How are you? The city clerk. That's who I was speaking to. Anyway, look, very quickly. And anyway, there have been some people, they've even heard my voice, and they come up to me and say, well, I haven't seen you, blah, 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 etc. Anyway, for those who don't know me, well, I first walked in these chambers January 1992. Now, concerning the Housing Authority, I did say some of this years back. The only one that was around still, but he's gone, is Scott Howard, tribal memory. Anyway, in the 1920s, all right, the American cities were in shams, slums, blight. What did the federal government do? It created the housing program to take care of the problem. You have to remember that housing program, in your vernacular for today, was called redevelopment. All right? That's what it was called, redevelopment. All right? So, and if you're looking at it, but now, yes, that's gone. However, in the housing program, you've had programs to help out people, or supposedly. But at the same time, you see the failures decade after decade if you go into the past. Job training, testing them, talking about career planning, but even if city workers went out in the streets, they would have a hard time finding a job, trying to tell these people how to do things. All right? Glendale still has what? High unemployment, even if you want to say it's down. Nixon administration stopped enforcing the federal plan about employment. Less than 4% meant full employment. It went up and it's stayed up since. All right. At the same time, welfare in the town, it's pretty large as a percentage. I mean, when you read news stories, you get that. All right. What I'm saying is this. Now, if the present city attorney can't do it, I would suggest that you do lay say 50,000 when Scott Howard crafted, because he's been good at winning in the courts when it came for lawyers here in Glendale. But the thing is a business incubator. All right? A business incubator. And when I'm looking at it, it would be an annual one. Yeah, you're taking a gamble at the same time. But a business incubator, it would look like maybe 100 people in it. It doesn't matter like what kind of ideas that they have. However, where I'm doing this on is that you remember back in the 1990s, they were saying in America, and we'll just use the average round number, was like you see the figures, 1 million businesses were being created in America every year. They were even pushing that in the late 80s. However, when you look at the stats for it, you find out that the greatest majority of those businesses, they were lucky if they earned $40,000 a year, and that's still today is true. Even when you're in very wealthy areas and they have home businesses. All right? So you can see where I'm coming from, or maybe you may begin to see where I'm coming from. If people that are running their own businesses are lucky if they make $40,000 or so a year, and that would just be a regular salary if someone was looking at it, supposedly, well then, shouldn't some of those people that have a hard time getting a job have a chance of at least generating their own businesses? All right? So they could at least have that kind of income coming into their households. All right? Some could get off the welfare rolls, however it may be, unemployment, etc. What I'm saying is this. There's a possibility that the city attorney might be able to craft something that can go along with it. It's a solution to a problem. It's not a total solution, but it's something, all right, that's much better than the things that have been going on year after year after year, even before I was born, even before you were born, Ira. All right, the same stuff. So this is all that I'm presenting to you as a new idea. Remember, you have spec building here. Well, you have buildings that are built. You have retail spaces that aren't being filled. You have so much turnover. All right, this would also help to address some of that turnover problem. Right? Some may succeed, others may not. But remember, Schumpeter's creative destruction when it comes to capitalism. All right? That would be an important thing, but also to speed it up. And let's see what happens. At least give it a try. All right? So I've said my part to help out at the moment. And I thank you very much for your time because, as Ben Franklin said, time is money. All right? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Veazey. Nice to see you back. Are you back? Are you back, or are we...
Sir, I'm somewhat back. It took me over 2 years to create a job in Beverly Hills. I had it for a long time. Now I got to work on creating another gig at the same time as I'm working on economic development in another state, too. All right? I have a friend. She needs something, so we're working on that. I'm just doing the best I can at the moment. Let's see what else happens.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
The next speaker is Anthony Ashby, or Anthony Ashley? Okay. Hello?
Hi, how are y'all doing?
Are you Anthony?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
And what's your last name?
Ashley.
Ashley, thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I've been in Glendale as a permanent resident now for since April of this year. I've been coming back and forth here for like 2 years, but now I'm officially back here because it's my hometown. I actually chose to be here because I have been notified by many people outside of Glendale and in the city of Glendale that it is one of the top 5 safest cities in this country, and knowing that I like to feel safe, and being able to walk down the street knowing that I am safe no matter where I'm going or who I'm talking to. And it seems as though if not every day, every other day, I have been approached by many of Glendale PD, and I'm not saying that it's not okay for them to know who's in the vicinity, because they see me all the time, because as I am currently yes, you can say homeless, but at the same time I'm doing what I can on a very low income to go out to local businesses and fill out applications. I have kids of my own that I'd like to get back into my life. You know, I'm recovering drug addict, and I don't find that when I'm hanging around another homeless person and a police officer pulls over, I find it that every time that I'm the one getting I guess you can say flat out disrespected. The other person gets very warm and welcome approach when I, out of nowhere, seem to get harassed and disrespected for no apparent reason. And me, I like to feel comforted when I'm being approached by my San Eddie's police department. And I'm not exactly sure what it is that that they have against me, but I just find it very odd that whether I'm around a friend or by myself, I get harassed, and I don't appreciate it, you know. And I just wanted to bring that up, because being someone that has a mental illness and knowing what causes stress in my life, that is one thing that. And on top of it, I'm homeless. I'm trying to change my life, and I'm young, yeah, but I'm trying to do what's right for me. And
Okay, thank you. Your time is up, but I would like to refer you to, I don't want to stress you, to our police sergeant in the back, who may give you some tips on the best way to interact with the police and make sure that any interaction is as less stressful as possible.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Yes, Ms. Reed.
You know, this is an issue that has been in the news a lot lately, and there's been a lot of discussion on the national level about interaction with homeless, and you referred to yourself as having a mental illness and people with mental illnesses. And I've spoken to our chief of police about this, and I just want to reiterate to our police department that I want to make sure that our officers understand how to deal with people who are vulnerable, who are recovering, who are trying to get their lives together, and having respect for them is a very big part of that. You are a resident in our community, and you deserve to be treated with the same respect as all of the other residents. And I hope that our police officers are able to help you and come to know you and find out how they can assist you as you get your life back. It sounds like you're trying to get your life back on track, and I think it's great that you came here today, because that takes a lot of courage. So thank you for coming. And I do hope that you speak to our officers, and hopefully they can use this as a teaching point for their officers. And I would love at some point for our council to have a report about what strategies we have in place for dealing with the mentally ill, and if there's anything new that we're implementing to make those relations better and to make sure we don't have the kinds of tragedies that we've seen unfold in other communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ashley. Next speaker is Barbara Jean NC.
Honorable Mayor and City of Glendale Council, men and women, or rather, divine women and men, respectably. I'm so glad you're here. thank you for being here, Paula. You have just been privileged to brush elbows with one of Farrell Eugene Bear's associates, if not to say friend. Farrell Eugene, also known as Bear, also known as Phil. And he has Anthony as his buddy, who, by the way, believes in the right to work. And when I first became homeless, by the hands of this city, I'll ask you at this time to please review the City Views newspaper magazine some years back, maybe 6 at the most, with the point of view of before and after. My picture was on the front page. And look at me now. Not so good. Fortunately, I crossed Farrell Eugene Bear's path too when I first became homeless. Oh, excuse me. Tissue? Tissue. No tissue? Oh, dear.
Tissues? Clerk?
I'll always be grateful to Bear.
Thank you.
Our precious Bear is now, 60 years old? Unlike myself, Bear did not sell his soul to the city of Glendale. No offense. Rather, he applied his ability to make something out of nothing. Dumpster diving with class. I respect and deeply love Bear for teaching me this. Illegal or not, I admit to diving to supplement my deceased husband's widow's benefits. Now, my issue is publicly, humbly demanding the city of Glendale, the independent city of Glendale, to rise above their dishonorable dependence on profiting from other people's pain. With that said, and I just have to say this, if I offend you, please forgive. With that said, I humbly come before you, humilitably begging for the return of my housing subsidy certificate. My property, mine, my stolen property. Thanking you in advance for your honorableness.
Okay. Ms. Ents, I'm going to ask you to have a word with our housing director. He'll have a word with you off. And I would ask him to get a little information on exactly what she's referring to. And if there was anything untoward, you can meet with him and to report back to us individually if there was anything that was unusual or improper on the process that occurred and what exactly did happen.
Sorry to say there was something very, very unusual.
Okay, well, you can...
I would never believe.
Well, that's why I'm letting you have a chance to speak with.
95 pages historical account of it is available. Janet Edwards provided it for me.
Okay.
And it is
Mr. Zovak will hear you out and he'll get back to us. Thank you. Thanks for coming forward. I don't have any other cards, so oral communications will be closed.
Move we adjourn.
I just want to make a comment before. I'm sorry, Dave. He always groans every time I say I want to make a comment.
No, not that. I just...
We had the chairman might make a messy or mention this, but we had the Cypress Senior Living Grand opening today, which is our first rehabilitation project. 120 built in the 1920s.
28, I think it was.
And I'll let you talk about it, but it reminded me that I was hearing, I heard this last week, they were showing this beautiful high-rise in New York facing the river, and like we have, a developer will get a tax breaks if certain number of the units are low-income housing. And we are very careful to make sure that everything is the same. Every unit is the same, just like marketplace. But there, the low-income people can't even go through the front door. They have to go around the back through the alley to enter the building. I mean, it's really a caste situation. I know there's a lot of money in those buildings, but it just reminded me how proud I am of Glendale and the way we treat these things.
So thank you, Mr. Mincy. What you're referring to was the grand opening of Cypress Senior Living, which is a collaboration with the Community Development Partners, which is a private agency, and we used our HUD money from the federal government, along with their ability to obtain 9% tax credits and a loan from the Housing Authority, so they could rehab an 18-unit building, and it is serving 6 veterans, and the rest are low and very low income. It's a great building, and it was a terrible problem beforehand. There were up to 64 individuals living in that building, and I was doing the math. It has to be about 4 or 5 individuals per unit. It has been rehabbed with a community garden, a great mural, a laundry room, computer room, and it's going to serve the community well. Now, that did raise an issue in my mind. I'd like to have a report on this as to what the city can do to monitor and resolve a severe overcrowding situation that obviously was existing in this building previously and perhaps is existing throughout the city, contributing to issues such as traffic, crime, domestic violence, whatever else may be associated with extremely cramped housing, and whether the city or the Housing Authority has any recourse to prevent that from occurring.
Referring, sir, to projects that we monitor on an ongoing basis, or just in the city in general?
I just mean in general. I mean, you throw in 10 buildings like that on a block where there should be several hundred people living, and in reality there's 1,000 or more. I think that really is the genesis of a lot of the problems that we hear about. Number one being no parking, et cetera. What can we do about it? First, to identify these buildings, and do we have any recourse, if any, to a voluntary method or a involuntary method to get the landlords to reduce the number of tenancies per unit? I mean, we're talking about singles. If we walked in those and they were small units, enough room for maybe a bed and a small table.
They're single, right? And if you're putting 4 people in there.
If you've gotten 4 or 5 people in there, I just can't imagine the difficulties that they have.
So just the week before last, I believe, we had the kickoff of the 2015 Special Olympics World Games here in Glendale. As you all know, Glendale is now a host city, which is something very exciting and something we should all be proud of. And as we all know, those games are meant to give an opportunity for athletic competition to individuals with various developmental disabilities. And just now we had a speaker who spoke about his own personal situation as it ties into, as he described himself, a disability, a mental disability, I believe. I would like our housing department to give us a report of how our low-income housing scheme, whatever factors go into it, whatever parts it consists of, how it takes into consideration developmental disabilities of individuals. How many units are set aside for individuals with such problems or such developmental challenges, or if they're not set aside, how many units are actually, or how many such individuals are actually members of the programs that the city of Glendale provides. If we can have some kind of information regarding to that, because I think, again, the individual who came and spoke to us sort of brings reality home, and it's nice to be part of the Special Olympics and be a host city, but we also should look at what it is that we're doing on an everyday basis for those individuals that need our assistance the most in the city of Glendale. Yes.
I have a question. So my question is, as you said, 64 individuals were living in 18 units. So after the rehab, how many is allowed in each unit? Do we have such number?
Unfortunately, Mr. Zovak stepped out. I don't know that those are singles, and so I'm going to guess that they are an individual or at most a couple that would be there. But if you'd like, we can also include that as a follow-up report to you. Because the idea, especially with a project that we do monitor, we'd be able to understand who's living there, working with the on-site management so that it doesn't develop into an overcrowding situation. But we will get you the confirmed answer shortly.
Okay, thank you. So,
Go ahead.
In actuality, though, the city really can't regulate how many people rent an apartment, can we?
We do through, we don't have our own health department, but we do have a code enforcement function, although it's stretched, to the extent that when we do get complaints and we do an inspection and we do uncover evidence of those types of violations, that is when we can employ a number of tools, not the least of which is our administrative citation ordinance. But your point's well taken that until today, until we are called for such a violation or objectively witness it on our own, then it does not happen, or at least it has not been part of that work program.
yeah.
And to actively monitor would take immense resources, which we just don't have, right?
Yes and no. To monitor it on a level like we would with the units that we are responsible for, where we have a covenant. If we were to do that on a widespread, community-wide basis, yes, immense resources. If we were to find funding and allocate more dollars for proactive code enforcement, such that we had probably 15 years ago, maybe not that long, certainly before the dissolution of redevelopment, we could do more than what we are doing today. At this point, our code enforcement program is entirely responsive, as opposed to proactive.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no other comments from members or staff?
I'll second whoever, Mr. Weaver's,
Yes.
as far as adjournment.
Sorry, sir. We are adjourned.